Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, the long-awaited Ranking the Studio Albums edition of Iron Maiden. I know many of you have been asking over the past few weeks. I was able to deliver the Judas Priest episode yesterday. Today, we got Iron Maiden. So, little disclaimer at the beginning. I actually do not own the two Blaze Bayley albums. Okay, so when Bruce Dickinson left the band, in comes Blaze for a couple of albums. Had both of them back in the day. Got rid of them. Did not like them at all. Probably should have held on to them, all things considered. But not really missing out on much because I just never felt like he really fit the band's sound at all. Not that he's not a fine vocalist on his own. Just with Iron Maiden, it just didn't really work for me. So I'm going to rank them. I'm not going to show them. Okay, because like I said, I've heard them both. I no longer own them. So how I normally work these is I go from my least favorite all the way to my favorite. Some tough choices here. I think the top of the list was pretty easy to put together. The bottom of the list, a lot of really solid albums that I enjoy a lot, but maybe not a lot that differentiates them from each other. All really good, enjoyable. So kind of hard to rank them, but I did the best I could here. I think for me, the cream of the crop obviously rises. We all know which ones those are, but I think even the bottom half, a lot of really good stuff there. So I'm going to start off at the bottom of my list with, however you want to say it, Virtual XI or Virtual 11. It was the band's 11th album. Okay, second and last with Blaze Bayley. I don't know. Doesn't really work much for me. I find the songs not very memorable. I find his vocals not really fitting Maiden style of music. I kind of thought that from the first time I heard the next one up, which will be on my list coming next, The X Factor. Again, the songwriting is not awful. A couple decent songs. Both of these albums are kind of like, kind of really dark albums, right? Not very uplifting albums. Not a lot of your typical galloping Maiden metal anthems. I just don't find them that interesting. Okay, the playing is fine, competent, right? It's Iron Maiden for Christ's sakes, but I don't know, man. The spark just left when Dickinson left. Blaze, fine for his own stuff. Yeah, with Maiden doesn't really work for me. So those two are going to sit at the bottom. All right, we're going to go with Virtual 11 and the X Factor coming in next. Coming in next up, I'm going to go with, again, an album I enjoy a lot. But, you got to kind of pick them here. So I'm going to go with The Final Frontier. Okay, one of their more later ones, obviously. This one coming out in 2010. Again, I like it. Very solid latter day release. Satellite 15. El Dorado, hit or miss with some people. Right? The Alchemist, I think, is a fine song. Isle of Orlan. Starblind. The Talisman. It's a pretty cool tune. Some good material on here. Is it top shelf made? Nah, maybe not, but still pretty damn good. I am of the opinion that Maiden have not released a bad album since Bruce came back into the band. I like them all. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on the more latter-day stuff. For some people, it's a little too progressive. Songs are too long, maybe not quite as memorable as the early stuff. I mean, it's just, you can kind of say that about almost any band that's been around for 30, 40 years, right? But I find a lot to love on these latter-day Maiden albums. Next up, I'm going to go with Matter of Life and Death. Okay, from 2006. What do we got on here? Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. Damn good song. All right, The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. Really good song. Lord of Light. Dig it. Different World. Dig it. These Colors Don't Run. Again, Iron Maiden, right? Galloping, there's kind of a similarity to a lot of these latter-day Maiden albums that you either really like or you don't. And I get it if you don't. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people who, kind of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son was the last of their really great albums, and that's fine if you think that. I personally have, I like a lot of these albums. I do. All right, next up, I'm going to go with, again, the order of these can change a little bit. I like all these albums. Fear of the Dark. All right. Which, of course, is 1992. Be Quick or Be Dead. The title track, of course, legendary. probably for most people, either a song you don't need to hear anymore because they've played it live like almost every show since this album was released, and it's a big anthem, for them on stage. But some other good stuff on here too. The Fugitive, The Apparition, From Here to Eternity, Afraid to Shoot Strangers. I dig this album. No Adrian Smith here. This is where you got Yannick Gers coming into the band. And he debuted with No Prayer for the Dying back in 1990, which is going to be next for me. Again, another one of those albums that some people, talk about that they don't like too much. Tail Gunner, Holy Smoke, fun songs for me. Title track is fun. The Assassin, I dig. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, Mother Russia. I kind of dig this album, all right? Is it great Iron Maiden? No, but I think it's cool. Dance of Death, next up for me. 2003. All right. Wildest Dreams, Rainmaker, title track. No More Lies, another great song. New Frontier, Passchendaele, I like a lot. Journeyman, I don't know. To me, this is, the latter day Maiden is very epic sounding, and I like epic music. So I don't have an issue with this album or any of these later ones. I know I'm sounding like a broken record. Next up, I'm going to go with their most recent one. It's from a couple years back, The Book of Souls, 2-disc set. Again, very epic. A lot of long songs, but these songs, for me, played out great live. I saw them on this tour. The Red and the Black, If Eternity Should Fail, is a fantastic song, in my opinion. When the River Runs Deep, the title track is great. Death or Glory, another really good song. Tears of a Clown, Empire of the Clouds, just a lot of big, bombastic, epic Iron Maiden. Dig it. I dig it. Probably my favorite out of all the Dickinson Back in the Band and Onward albums is the first one they did, Brave New World. Again, I saw them on this tour. It was fantastic. I like this album a lot. Wicker Man is killer. Title track, Brave New World, is great. Ghost of the Navigator. All right. Blood Brothers. Dream of Mirrors. Out of the Silent Planet. Dig it. Dig it a lot. All right, next up, I'm going to go with The Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Iron Maiden's foray into concept album realm is a great one. Probably up to that time, easily their most proggy album, and I think a lot of prog metal fans tend to gravitate towards this one out of some of their early stuff. Can I Play With Madness, kind of a little bit of a hit, all right? Moonchild, great song. The Evil That Men Do, fantastic song. The Prophecy, The Clairvoyant. Title track, Infinite Dreams. I mean, the whole thing, top to bottom, is quite good. Big fan, all right? Big fan of this. And I almost thought about ranking that one a little higher than this next one, but, I was hugely into this when it first came out, and I still like it quite a bit. Somewhere in Time. A lot of great songs on here. All right, you got Caught Somewhere in Time. You got Wasted Years, a great anthem. I was so happy to hear them play that once again. Last time I saw them, Sea of Madness is great. Loneliness and a Long Distance Runner. Stranger in a Strange Land, awesome. Alexander the Great, produced, of course, by Martin Birch. A dynamite album, as are all these going forward. Next up, I'm going to go with, of course, the mighty Powerslave. I still have very good recollections and memories of going to see Maiden on this tour and the big grand spectacle that it was. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable. And, the songs back it up. Aces High, Killer, Lost for Words, Flash of the Blade, The Duelist. All right. Back in the Village. The title track, Powerslave, awesome. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, one of my favorite songs of all time. For me, and I know that it has a million fans, and people are going to be like, oh, Pardo, you're losing your mind. 2 Minutes to Midnight for me is just, I was never a huge fan of it, and it's just, for me, it's just completely overplayed, and I just think that a lot of the other songs on this album were way better, and that seems to always get the most attention. But I know it's just my opinion, right? You don't have to agree with it, and it's fine, because I know 2 Minutes has a lot of fans, and that's fine, if you think so. No problem at all. All right, so that's what's going to come in. This is number 5 for me. So coming in at number 4, I'm going to go with the self-titled debut. One of the great debuts in heavy metal history, right? Phantom of the Opera, Remember Tomorrow, Running Free, Sanctuary, Charlotte the Harlot, Iron Maiden, Prowler, Transylvania. Did I mention Sanctuary? Just great stuff. Great stuff. A band just coming out with a pretty unique sound at the time and moving on with it and developing it and just kicking ass ever since, right? All right, coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with Number of the Beast, which, might be number 1 for a lot of people. It's cool if it is. If you would have asked me this question probably 30 years ago, I might have said it was my number 1. Over the years, I've just grown to appreciate a couple others just a little bit more, but this is definitely a top 3 Maiden album, in my opinion. Any album that has Hallowed Be Thy Name and 22 Acacia Avenue, for me, is got to rank up there pretty high. 22 Acacia Avenue, my favorite Maiden song of all time. Hallowed Be Thy Name comes in right after it, right? Invaders, Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, the title track, great, of course. Run to the Hills, very, very fine song, a little overplayed, but still good. Gangland, of course, this was Dickinson's first outing with the band, and a damn fine one. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with Killers, which is Killer. First album I bought from them. I remember seeing this album cover in Record World, Middletown, New York, in the Orange Plaza, and I was like, I don't know what this is or who this band is or what they're all about, but I gotta have it. You see that. You see this on the back cover, and you're like, yep, that looks like something I want, right? Loved it. Went and bought the debut shortly thereafter, and I was hooked from there. I mean, this could be number 1. My number 1 just... certain albums have really special places in our hearts, in our ears, in our minds, right? But this is my number 1 and number 2 are not separated by much. Rat Child, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Ides of March, Another Life, Genghis Khan, Innocent Exile, Killers, Twilight Zone, Prodigal Zone, Purgatory, Drifter. I mean, just, man, it's great. The last album of Paul Di'Anno, who was pretty tremendous on those first 2 Maiden albums, right? Say what you want about what he's done since, but, he fit perfectly with their style of music on these first 2 albums. And some absolute classics on here. And, it needs to be said that I think some of Steve Harris's best bass playing is from this album. Or at least, this album where you can kind of hear him the most. He's doing all this kind of gymnastic, acrobatic stuff. Very, very cool for the time. And, an important heavy metal album for sure. My favorite, however, today is going to be Peace of Mind. Again, when this came out, I was all in. I was all in before, but I'm really in here. Saw them on this tour. Just played this vinyl LP when I had it back in the day to death over and over and over again. It's got one of my favorite album openers of all time, Where Eagles Dare, right? It's got Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, Revelations, The Trooper, for crying out loud, Still Life, all right, Quest for Fire, Sun and Steel, and the amazing To Tame a Land, which probably... To Tame a Land really kind of, I mean, you could say there's stuff on the first 2 albums as well, but I think To Tame a Land is really where the band started to, really incorporate and accept their kind of progressive leanings. Of course, Steve Harris, big into bands like, Jethro Tull and UFO and, lots of other prog stuff. So, and Yes and what have you. So you're starting to hear like all that, the epic song construction starting to happen. Like I said, you heard snippets of it on the first 2 albums, but I think To Tame a Land is where that really started to kind of fester and take on a life of its own. Then on subsequent albums, you had all sorts of big epic arrangements and movements and things like that, still to this day, right? So that's how I'm going to rank them. So, all right, so you know how it goes. Down below in the comments section, rank the Iron Maiden albums as you see fit. Remember, we all hear these albums differently, so there is no right or wrong. Okay, so if you like stuff better than I rank them, that's perfectly fine, right? My list is not wrong. Your list is not wrong. John Smith's list is not wrong. It's all how we hear them, how we interpret them. So everybody's going to have different rankings and have different favorites, and that's the way it should be, right? The important thing is to talk about Iron Maiden and their albums here. Compare them, contrast them. Do you love them? Do you hate them? All that kind of stuff, right? So my number 1 is going to be Peace of Mind, all right? Number 2, Killers. Number 3, The Number of the Beast. Number 4, Iron Maiden. Number 5, Tell me why I have to be a power slave. Number 6, Somewhere in Time. Number 7, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Number 8, am I on number 8? I always lose track. Brave New World. Number 9, The Book of Souls. Number 10, Dance of Death. Number 11, No Prayer for the Dying. Number 12, Fear of the Dark. Number 13, A Matter of Life and Death. Number 14, The Final Frontier. Number 15, The X Factor. And number 16, Virtual 11. All right. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on the mighty YouTube all the damn time. What's coming up? I'm going to try and get to Doobie Brothers ranking the studio albums sometime over the next day or so. What else? I got other stuff that's on my agenda. Sorry guys, as I've told you the last couple episodes, I'm a little distracted with a family emergency that's been going on. So probably won't see me doing as much videos over the next couple days to a week. But we're gonna squeeze in as many as I can when I can. So I'm gonna try and keep the content moving in between me running around and being with family and going, trips to the hospital and all that kind of stuff. So, but thank you all for your well wishes and prayers. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next time. All right. So take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Up the irons.